What's up, Giants fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And for the first time in a long time, we're recapping a New York football Giants victory. And it's a big one, folks. A 45-33 win over the Indianapolis Colts. Now just 3-14 on the season. It's their first win since week 5 out in Seattle. Their first and only home win of the 2024 season, the Giants' 100th season. Absolute failure, but the Giants did some damage this week. They knocked the Colts out of the playoffs. They played a little spoiler. Career days for Drew Lock and Malik Nabers. We'll talk about that in a few moments. But overall, I'm excited that the Giants got this win. Some of you may not, and that's all right. I'll explain why as we get deeper into this video, but I'm very excited to dive into it all. Folks, if you're new to the channel, make sure to check us out on all of our social media on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Big Blue Avenue. Oh, and a happy new year to everybody who follows the channel. Thank you all so much. So let's get into this. QB Drew Lock has a career day completing a lot of his passes, 17-23 for 309 yards, 4 touchdown passes, 1 rushing, with no interceptions. His adjusted completion percentage was 81.8%. He was finding guys all day long. Malik Nabers, Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, all those guys were getting open for him. He was slicing up that Colts defense. And folks, if you want to blame anybody for the Giants winning, blame the Colts. They couldn't stop Malik Nabers. They did everything they wanted to against this garbage middle school level Giants defense they have out there right now. But defensively themselves, they couldn't stop the Giants. You can't tell Malik Nabers, hey, by the way, don't run into the end zone twice. Don't get 170 receiving yards on the day. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting situation, but I'm happy the Giants got this win. Drew Lock looked awesome out there. Tyrone Tracy looked pretty good too. 59 rushing yards and 14 receiving. The Giants only had 80 rushing yards as a team. So the Colts didn't do a bad job stopping the run. They just could not stop the pass. And that's where I get into Malik Nabers. 7 receptions for a career high, 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. This was the breakout game we were waiting for all season long. You saw it a little bit against Washington in week 2, against Cleveland in week 3. We finally got it in week 17. 2 scores, second multi-touchdown game of his young career. He was awesome, making guys miss. And, yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what happens with the rest of this Giants offense moving forward and in Week 18. His performance also opened up lanes for Wan'Dale Robinson, who had 5 catches for 71 yards and a score. Darius Slayton only 1 catch, but it was a 32-yard touchdown. Defensively, the Giants were without some guys. Micah McFadden out. Okereke is on IR. Ty Summers and Jason Pinnock led the way, but Dane Belton really impressed me a lot. That over-the-shoulder interception early on that, in my opinion, set the tone for this game. It got the Giants ahead early, and I want to quickly shout him out. Along with Brian Burns, 3 tackles for loss this week. He was awesome. Giants not great stopping the run, but they did have some impact plays, and Joe Flacco looked very uncomfortable throwing the football. Drew Phillips also had his first career interception, so definitely excited about that. Defensively for Big Blue, Raheem Nunez-Roches and Kayvon Thibodeau each had a sack. Thibodeau just 4 sacks on the season, but he has only played in 11 games. He's been riddled with injuries this season. Also, I think what really helped the Giants create a dent was that kickoff return for touchdown out of the half. Amir Smith-Marset, 100-yard kickoff return for a score, named NFC Special Teams Player of the Week. This guy was thrusted into a very important role this season. The Giants lost Gunnar Olszewski before the season even started due to injury. The Giants needed somebody to come up and take this role over, and Smith-Marset has answered the bell. He's done a good job. He's looked shaky at times, but you know what? He's a young player. He's matured over the season, and I'm happy he's ours because he's been really, really solid, and he's been healthy. He's definitely been healthy. But all in all, defensively, still some struggles. They gave up big plays. Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce each had over 100 receiving yards, but they did cause 3 turnovers, as I mentioned. Yeah, Flacco did not look good, and that's a credit to the Giants. Now, should the Giants be worried about falling to number 4 overall in the draft? No. Look, this is not the best quarterback class. I know the Giants have been scouting the top 2 a lot in Shadur Sanders and Cam Ward, but you got to remember something right now. You look at the teams above the Giants. Patriots hold the number 1 pick. They're not taking a quarterback. They have Drake May. They'll likely try to get Travis Hunter if they stay there. And you can't worry about what's in front of you. Let the draft fall to you. There's also a lot of time before next season. And to think about this, theoretically speaking, right? The Giants might not want to bring in a first round rookie quarterback into this roster next season because the roster is really, really bad. And that's thanks to Joe Shane not drafting well over his first 2 years as a GM, not filling holes properly in free agency more often than not. We know there's been some good ones like Bobby Okereke, but there's also been some really bad ones like Mark Lewinsky, not bringing back John Feliciano and Nick Gates in the same offseason and thinking the line would be okay without really addressing it in the draft besides JMS. Azudu and McKeithen, awful picks. You know, the Cordell Flott draft pick still never made sense to me that early. Wandale in the second round, even though he's been a somewhat productive player. Look, for me, it's more talent evaluation. You look at Bo Nix, who was drafted 12th by the Broncos this year. He's runner-up to Jaden Daniels for Offensive Rookie of the Year. You shouldn't worry about so much where you're slated. You want to get the best player available regardless of position. And there's no guarantee that the Giants are going to fall in love with either Shadur Sanders or Cam Ward throughout the pre-draft process. And if they don't, I'm just saying, then, you know, there's still a lot of time left. We still have CFP games to play. You know, Drew Aller announced he's returning to school. Now there's some rumors that, you know, the quarterback class is weak this year. This could be a time for Aller to come out if he continues to play really well. Look, I don't see the purpose in getting so mad over a win. These guys have jobs. These guys have families to feed. As a fan, I could never root for my team to lose. I want to win football games. Don't get me wrong. I want the best football players out there. But if you want the number 1 overall draft pick, then that tells you something. You don't trust your GM. And look, I don't trust our GM either. That's why I think what I want the Giants to do is clean house, get rid of Shane and Daboll, bring in a new head coach and a new GM, and don't rush the quarterback in. Because if you keep these 2 or 1, if it's 1, it'll be Joe, you're forcing the quarterback pick now. You don't have draft flexibility. If you just say, yeah, we're 100% going with the quarterback. A lot of Giants fans and a lot of Giants channels have fallen in love with the idea of taking a quarterback in the top 5 of this year's draft. There's no guarantee it's going to happen. The top 2 QBs in this year's class are not nearly as good as the top 3 in last year's class. But yeah, that'll be interesting. Also, let's keep in mind, no draft pick is a guarantee. The number 2 overall pick has been better than the number 1 overall pick in the last 3 drafts, right? You look at Aiden Hutchinson over Trayvon Walker. You look at C.J. Stroud over Bryce Young, and then Jaden Daniels over Caleb Williams, right? So there are players that will fall to you in certain spots. Also, let's mention, too, the last couple drafts, right? You want to look at Marvin Harrison Jr. getting drafted 4th by the Cardinals last year. The Giants may want to bring in a free agent quarterback. We don't know. We'll see what happens. There's still 1 week of the regular season left. We'll readdress this again on the live show on Thursday. We'll be recording Sam Cardona, Norberg, and I, along with Jordan Courtney, resident Philadelphia Eagles fan. Hope you all enjoyed watching this video. Let me know if you agree on my thoughts about falling to number 4 in the draft order and personally why I don't like tanking. I don't. It's just something I'll never be able to do. It's how I was raised, folks. Here we go. Give us a follow on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Big Blue Avenue. Appreciate all of your support. And without further ado, let's go Big Blue.